How do you become an inspirational speaker, a transformative leader, make somewhere the place to be? These answers can only be passed down from one generation to the next through stories. Each story is not a step-by-step guide, but rather delivers the principles for success, or the intangibles. Tiger Tales is a Toastmasters club from Rochester, New York that started 7 years ago. Starting with its founders, this club has produced eloquent orators that have gone on to become this generation of leaders all around the world. Join us in talking with our club's cornerstones, revealing the undefined, the intangibles.
Hi everyone, Alex Turner here, the co-host of Intangibles. And we are getting started with our next series, our next conversation. And this one I am really excited about. And I'm here with Xavier. Say hi.
Hey, hey.
So our next conversation is going to be with Saboor Mulberries. And of all of the incredible leaders that we have met through Tiger Tales, Saboor is one of the people, of all of the people that I know, that I am proudest to know and to have met because of his story. He is an incredible leader, and you take all that talent and all of his skills, and that in and of itself makes him an incredible person. But his personal courage to use those talents and skills to accomplish the things that he has accomplished in the setting that he has accomplished it in Afghanistan in the last, over the course of his lifetime, is really inspiring. So he himself is inspiring, and his journey with Tiger Tales is that much more inspiring. Seeing him transform from, you'll get a chance to hear the very first time that we heard from him and on into his inspiring speeches and the way that he tells his story. It's really incredible, and I'm excited for you all to hear it.
Absolutely. And the way that I see it is a lot of the other people, Rob, Halim, Preeti, they were the initial e-board. They set up the whole meeting so that it could run. And at these beginning meetings, Saboor was one of the first guests that comes in and decides to just totally lean into what Tiger Tales' identity is, this vulnerable storytelling, diverse culture. And he just represents it so well. And his growth arc, as you'll see, does amazing job of showing what Tiger Tales is.
Absolutely. I love the way that you framed that Saboor's growth and his being attracted to the club and growing the way that he did is evidence that Tiger Tales DNA was working, that we were able to attract him, that this was something that he wanted to be a part of. That same Tiger Tales DNA has been attracting people ever since.
Agreed. So let's dive in. So Saboor, how did you get started in Tiger Tales? What led you to our club?
That's a complete, accidental experience, I can say. So it was summer 2014 while I was attending English classes at RIT. One of our teachers, I remember it was our speaking teacher. She recommended me and a couple of other students to join Toastmasters, and she said there is a club called Toastmasters, and you should go and attend one of their meetings and then share your experience with the rest of the class, the next day. I did not have any idea. So basically, I believe for many other people, it's they find the club, they search about it, they get information, but I did not have any information. I went to this meeting and honestly, I was astonished. It was a completely fascinating experience. From the beginning, how guests were welcomed and, how the meeting was organized and, how confident speakers were speaking, I was completely amazed by this whole, the setup of the meeting and the great people out there. So I forgot about the assignment that I had, that I have to write about it, and then I have to go and share it with the rest of the class. So what I did, immediately after the meeting ended, I approached Halim, and I said, I want to join this club. So what is the process? And the reason for that is, for me, I always had this desire to be able to stand in front of audience and speak and share my thoughts, and also if there's any event, any activity that I can actually stand and contribute or speak, then this was always my desire. So I think I found the right place. So that was how I introduced to Toastmasters. And from the very first meeting, I was amazed, and I can say throughout my stay in Rochester for around 2 years, the best place I always wanted to visit was Tiger Tails.
Oh,
Is there a particular speech that stands out from those first couple meetings that made you really want to join up and learn to speak?
Oh, I believe there was two speeches, I can say. One was Halim, and definitely the way he was organizing his speech, interacting with audience, and the whole session was so interactive and amazing. That was one of the things I wanted to be in that level, but there's still a lot for me to learn to reach to that level. But that was one of the speeches. And the other one was, I believe there was a guest speaker, if I can recall, it was Kelly. She was talking about table topics, mastering table topics. I don't know if I remember the name of the guest speaker, but it was mastering table topics. So the way she actually recommended how to organize your thoughts in that few seconds, and then respond to a table topic question, that was very interesting. So these two examples, as I said, so one was an organized speech, which was prepared speech, and the other one was practicing impromptu speeches. These were the two things that grasped my attention, and also I really wanted to able to speak
This next clip is an event that Tiger Tails did called Champ Camp, where the reigning District 65 champions, in this case Kelly Rowland, talked about how she did a amazing table topic and tips that we could use. She calls on Saboor, who was a guest at this meeting, to give a table topic. So we'll hear Saboor's table topic, followed by a helpful evaluation from Kelly.
If you reflected on your last year, what would have been your favorite moment of the last year, and why?
Hello everyone, I'm very glad to be part of this session today. The moment that I love in last year was I was struggling I was forced to find a scholarship for me to complete my higher education. Fortunately, I got a news that I was selected in Fulbright, and it was an amazing moment for me. The moment I received the news, the information that I got selected, it was I cannot forget it. So this is one of the precious moments for me.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
In some instances, in a speech, you have to build up to. I go back and forth with table topics, and I think it really depends on where you want to go with it. In this particular case, I might have said right at the outset, my favorite moment was when I learned I had won a Fulbright scholarship. Hit them with it right in the beginning, in this case, because it answers the question, You knew what it was that you were going to say. When I asked you that question, you already knew what I was going to say. But by saying to us, I want a Fulbright scholarship, everybody's going to go, woo, at first, and you're going to immediately capture your whole audience. And then you can build on having won. What did it feel like? I would suggest that maybe it could be a little bit longer, so tell us about that. The struggles of how you went through applying, because it's no easy application process. How your family felt. Did you have a party? What was it that inspired you to apply for a Fulbright scholarship? And then how did that influence your decision on where to go, what to study, what to do? All of those could be supporting points. They don't have to all be packed into 2 minutes, but those are what will support your Fulbright scholarship main emphasis. And that's really the key, is at the end of the day, when you have one thing that you can focus on, then just imagine the network of roots that tie up into the tree.
Yeah, I'm remembering now, it was the summer meetings when we had the champ camps. And so
Right.
Kelly Rowland, who had won the Table Topics Championship, came and taught us all about table topics. Those were really good sessions. I'm remembering that Corey's evaluation training was so high level that Halim actually had to do it again. So here's the actual details, like on the ground. Here's the trees. Corey taught you all about the forest, but you got to know some trees too.
Exactly. So yeah, as I said, so after that first session, anytime I would attend the meetings, if it was Rob giving a speech, or if it was Corey doing the evaluation, and yourself, Alex, and many other members and our mentors. So I was truly amazed, each person had a different way of speaking and organizing their thoughts, and that was a completely different experience. And I can say, one of my best experience in my life was joining Toastmasters, and especially Tiger Tales.
I was actually watching those Camp Champ videos this summer, because even 6 years later, they're just amazing that they got recorded so well, and we can go back and see them again. But in Arlene Brown's talk, you asked a question to her, and I thought it was so cool, because the question that you asked was, how many speeches does it take for you to give to be inspiring to somebody? And I don't know if you remember the answer, but Arlene was like, 1. And you were like, just 1? Are you serious? So then my thoughts were, you hear, however you heard that summer, you go and give your first speech. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's a barn burner. Like you give it so well that I come in for the first Tiger Tales meeting of my life, and I hear it, and I'm like, I want to be like this guy. Yeah. You remember that speech?
Yeah, thank you. So first of all, I don't think having a language barrier, I don't think I organized my speech very well, but just one thing that I always wanted to include in my prepared speeches was I wanted to pick a real story, something authentic that I was I could actually feel, and I could actually share the experience and being authentic with audience. So that was one of the things that I always wanted to do, and I still want to consider that when I give a speech. That's one of I always pick some real examples of my life.
The referee asked me, "Are you ready?" Trust me, I said yes. The way that all the people in the gymnasium, I believe they heard my voice. And even my opponent was very scared. Then the referee said, "Start." I don't remember anything. I opened my eyes. I saw some of my friends giving this expression in a very hilarious way. Great job. Life in those days in Afghanistan was not about fun and enjoyment. Rather, the country was occupied by Taliban, a government that people had lost their hope for future. Situation was in such a way that hundreds and thousands of people have died in every corner of the country.
That's one of the things I think you helped contribute to in terms of our club's culture, is that importance of authenticity and really being able to feel the story that you're telling and bringing the audience through that. I think for our club, with so many English as a second language, so many folks are learning English, that it's all that more important to be able to feel what it is that you're saying, so that it's almost like the way that a deaf person might be able to lip read. If you enunciate really clearly, the word might not be quite the right word, but if your heart is in the right spot, it's almost like we can heart read. And that, I think, is especially true of your speeches. And I think that's what made that first speech that helped get Xavier into the club, that made that speech so powerful. And all of your other speeches is just what you were saying about, this is a real story, it's from my life, and I'm feeling it here in front of you. Beautiful. And that continues in our club for sure.
Thank you. So yeah, as you pointed out, the beauty of our club, Tiger Tales, was like, it was a student club. Most of the members were from a diverse culture, and at the same time, like, different from different backgrounds. So we could actually feel more comfortable speaking. Like I remember I visited a couple of other clubs in Rochester, and I noticed, like, members of those clubs, they were there for years, and they were like, very experienced people. So somehow, even like, after giving a couple of speeches at Tiger Tales, I still did not have that confidence, like, to stand in front of those people and, speak. But then in Tiger Tales, as you mentioned, like, we were almost like, all students, all from similar backgrounds, and, we were trying to learn. So we had more confidence to stand and speak. Although, like, our club had more members than many other clubs in nearby. So yeah, that's one of the areas that I found, like, unique about Tiger Tales.
Yeah, we certainly represented so many countries in the world, so many unique experiences, diversity of languages and things that people were coming in with as well. Like, I'm sure afterward conversations could be held in, like, whatever, 5 or 6 languages. I know at least like 4 or something. So, but I think the draw was a mix of that diversity that people would bring in from their experience, but bringing it in with authenticity. I knew when I heard your speech what it was like for you to grow up in Afghanistan. Like, I could walk in your shoes and live that experience out in your 5 to 7 minutes, which is something that I never got to experience before. I didn't know how Afghanis grew up. So that was something amazing. I knew I wanted to hear more as soon as I heard that speech.
I was studying at RIT through Fulbright scholarship. So part of that Fulbright scholarship is, major goal of that Fulbright scholarship is cultural exchange, I can say, if I use the right term. So they want people for cultural exchange as well. Like, as you mentioned, if I am from Afghanistan and moving and studying in the United States, I should be able to communicate with people in the community and share what we have, and and discuss things that we do in Afghanistan, especially, like, different ceremonies, cultures, events, and everything that we have. But at the same time, we should also learn from communities here. So that was also part of our goal. And luckily, as I said, Tiger Tales was not the only place where I could enhance my public speaking skills, but at the same time, this was a good place to communicate with people from local communities, and then learn from them, not only, as I said, becoming a good communicator, but at the same time, learning cultural aspects as well. So this really, it was helpful for me.
That's so good to hear. Did you have a favorite speech that you gave, either Tiger Tails or a different club, while you were in Rochester?
Yeah, so I think, as you said, my first speech, somehow that's my favorite speech as well. So because even like now that we are speaking, I think an hour ago I texted Sadek, the guy who actually inspired me. So
Really?
the reason for that story being my favorite is like, this stayed with me like, for a very long time. And, I'm still learning from that great friend of mine. And he's the one who always, guides me. And whenever I need anything, he's the first person I share. So that's one of my favorite stories, that anytime I give the speech in a new place, I also try to incorporate the new things that I learn, and I get inspired by this person. I also incorporate that in my speech. So that's one of my favorite speeches, and I believe whenever I give the speech at any setting, I got good feedback, and not only for the content of the speech, but at the same time, like, there are a lot to be improved, and ways that I could actually share that story in better ways. So that's one of my favorite speeches.
Join us next week as we are back with Saboor, talking about his experience of growth through competition speeches. Additionally, we get into a little bit of what Saboor has been up to after graduating RIT. I cannot wait. See you next time.
Personality on. Max power. Maybe a 90% humor setting. Can we do that?